Jackie's here, changing life loving you. Yeah, that's the groove, life loving you. Feel the truth, move, life loving you. It's all we do, come on through, it's just for you.
I want to just talk about the modern relationship and where we would trust, truth, and expectations. And when I even say that, one of the big things for me is the trust issue. And I don't think that trust is where we really need it to be. There's a lot of doubt, a lot of insecurity, a lot of feeling unsafe and unsure. So I think trust is at the crux of the trajectory for modern relationships today, where they're less involved with actual human interaction, is more virtual, if you will. So I want to start with this question, or with this stat. 93% of Gen Z individuals admitted to cheating, compared to just 80% of millennials.
But yeah, Doc, what that is it's basically saying, like, if you have a poll of 100%, 100 millennials, 93% of them say, or 80%, 80 of that 100 say, yeah, I cheat. Gen Z individuals, it's more so 93%. And that was occurring in Newsweek.
See, for me, I just think that cheating is born out of a sense of security. Either way, if it's my own insecurities or it's because in the relationship I don't have what I need, that's going to make me feel like I need to get it some kind of way so that I can minimize the damage. It's really the collateral damage. So a lot of people that cheat, I've even thought about it. But what would be the reason for me to even contemplate it? It's because you're trying to figure out, how can I make sure that I preserve myself, that I'm not going to get crushed in this game, I'm not going to be suffering from heartbreak. So you might say, well, I'm going to have somebody else so that this doesn't happen. It's called hedging your bets, isn't it? But if I'm also an insecure person, I might need to cheat because I really don't feel like I'm enough. And so I'm always in fear of someone rejecting or leaving me. Either way, it's some form of insecurity.
So do you think that's what's plaguing this generation as far as dating? There's so much insecurity because of the climate?
I do. But I think the trust that I sense that's lacking is twofold. It's really unusual. It's a trust that I feel confident that I know how to navigate a relationship. I think that's part of it. So we're using the word trust, but really it's really confidence. I feel confident in my ability to choose the right person, to identify them when they come, to not get thrown off by the smoke screens, to really kind of discern, are you for me? Are you good for me? Am I going to be good with you in a relationship? So that's one part. The other part, I think, is the ability to feel prepared. Prepared to love. What condition are you in? Because now there's a lot of people that want love, they want to love and want to be loved, but they're in no condition to do it. So they're either sabotaging their relationships, they're making stupid decisions, and then at the end of the day, they're unable to be productive. What you want. So for me, building this house, I had to start from the end first. What did I want? What was it going to look like? I had to know that before to get the plans approved and all of that. And I think that young people don't, when I say young people, I'm gonna X that out, because boy, that dates you, doesn't it? And it makes it seem like I'm not a part. Look, young folk, I feel like I'm a part too now. I'm gonna stop that. Let me go back. So yeah, to build this house, I had to start from the end. I had to figure out what was it that I wanted in the house. Then I had to figure out what I wanted it to look like. I had to start with the plans. I had to get those approved before I could ever break ground. A relationship, anything that you build, if it's a business, if it's a family, if it's a relationship with a male or female, you have to start from the end. What do you want it to look like? So what I find a lot of people do is they might say, well, I want this and I want that, but then they don't bring all the materials that they need to build that out. So trust is foundational. I can't coexist in a relationship where I don't feel safe. Because when we don't feel safe, we can't show up as ourselves. We can't be open. We can't be present, because we got to be worrying about how to watch our back and that sort of thing. So in a relationship, you got to decide, what is it that I want? And then what are the ingredients that I'm going to need? So a lot of times we're missing over some of the key ingredients. I got to be whole if I want somebody to love me and love them. Like I used to always think, I'm going to find a way so that they're so in love with me and they give me everything, but I hold back. I just believe what you give, you receive. So if that's your philosophy, it can't work. It's not going to work. You have to show up and you have to be what you want. You have to give what you want.
Ooh.
So now if I'm wounded and I'm afraid of strong connections, then somehow that's going to show up as a plague in my relationship. So anyways, trust is foundational.
True. And do you believe that, because you said set the vision, and a lot of people will set the vision, right? And then they hop on like a social media, or they'll see their neighbor, or they'll see something, and then they'll be like, well, that looks good. But they don't know how much it took to build. Me knowing you, seeing how you built this house, all that it took to build. Do you think there's, what's the word? Lofty, or what's the word? Incomplete.
Uninformed. There's just uninformed ideas. Like, you make a good point. There's uninformed ideas. There's uninformed belief systems that we have. A lot of times it's easy to look at somebody else and say, oh, I want that, but you don't know what it took. Because social media is a good example. You see people after they've kind of made it, but you don't know how long that journey was, how long the process was. So what I always suggest is that getting around people that have taken the journey, get with them to find out, pick their brain, ask them good questions. You're asking some really good questions. What do you think it took? What are some of the ingredients? How long did it take? What were some of the challenges? What should I look out for? What's good advice that you would give to your kids when they are starting out? Something like that.
Awesome. So when we see that there's like this plague or this culture of infidelity, how does one, now it seems like, I remember seeing a meme where it says a rebel back in the 70s with someone with pink hair, tatted up, like rock on, and it said rebel now. There's a nuclear family. There's a family that's not infidelity, the family that doesn't participate in that. What do you say to those who are trying to fight against this promiscuous or this like status quo of it's okay not to be with one person, or it's kind of trying to say like infidelity is okay, especially since considering the stats?
Well, let's talk about science and let's talk about history. Any group of people that were very successful, they had a couple of things that are ingredients. It's just like you go to McDonald's. There's certain ingredients that they got. You got to keep those ingredients. That's what makes a difference, right? What makes a difference that we know is a solid family structure. But this is how you build generational wealth and intergenerational wealth. So it's based on the family. Now, I didn't make that up. That's just what it is, right? So fine, you can say, again, starting from the end, what is it that you want? What is it that you're trying to build? So now you know, if you're trying to build a family, you're trying to build out intergenerational wealth, it's going to be very difficult for you to do that without a nuclear family. And when I say nuclear, I shouldn't probably use that word because I mean a family. So we know that traditionally Caribbean people, they might not have the husband and the wife, but they got another male figure to create identity formation for those males in the household. They're there to be a structure and a support, to give the yin and the yang, right? If it's a broken family that's now the parents were divorced, but now they're with different partners, you just have to show up and you got to be there to give the kids what they need. But now, if there is a divorce, you've already now had to divide assets.
And now you're splitting 50-50 for what's supposed to be whole, and now the kids are now malnourished some way, some form.
I'm not going to say that the kids are malnourished, but we're just talking about wealth. Wealth has been divided now. So now each person's walking away with a half of what they had. Now they got to add that and build that back up with someone new. So this is the reason why historically, just read in economics. It talks about the family being the foundation of how you build out this wealth. Remember, there's a proverb that says 2 is better than 1. Remember that. So again, don't DM me talking about Dr. Jacquie, don't talk that noise. This is historical information that I'm touting. And I'm saying, you can build. I know my brother, he's been divorced twice. That joker was very, very wealthy. He was a millionaire in his early 20s. But now he had to divide that with his first wife. He had to divide his property, even down to his business. His second wife, he had to divide. Then he's having these children that he also has to provide for. So it does impact your ability to garner, to gain, to cultivate wealth.
And what would you say would be some ground rules to set for, like, especially with infidelity being such a crippling thing? What are some ground rules that you would to set now, especially in this digital dating era?
When you talk about infidelity, and we're talking about the numbers, all I think it does is it frightens people all the more. And they start trying to treat the symptom by probably cheating more instead of dealing with the root. The root is that people don't feel safe. They don't feel like they can trust. They don't feel like their expectations can be met. And then I think that there's a whole swath of people that give way to this because they say everybody else is doing it. So then they do it. So I just think that it's the people that are deciding that this is not what they want that have to begin to chart a different course. Start learning the skill sets that you need. One is clear communication. I think, and so clear communication is going to help you to arrive at what your expectations should be for the relationship. So if I'm going to be going out on a date, I'm not going to interrogate you, but I'm surely going to want to know, like, what is it that you're looking to do now? What are you trying to build out in your life at this particular time? I don't even need to hit you with, what is this relationship? What are you looking for relationship-wise? Or are you looking for a relationship? But that's fair ground. That's a good question to ask. Are you looking for a serious relationship at this time? They're going to tell you it's yes or no. No, I'm really I want to have fun, or whatever their response is going to be. Either way, to me, you should be getting to understand what's on the mind of the person that you're trying to date. And if a person is telling you that I'm not looking for anything serious now, don't make it your job to try to change it. They've told you, they've expressed it. Listen to it and act accordingly. So if I'm seeing somebody and they say, well, I'm not looking for anything serious, but I know that I am, right now, that's giving me the indication of what my next moves need to be. Number one, I don't need to be seeing that joker too much anymore, unless I'm just wanting to watch a game with somebody. But I already know now, set my parameters, that he is no one to take serious. Period, and then dot.
That's really, really good.
I was watching this series called Being Mary Jane. I know it's an old series, but apparently it was very popular in the day and a lot of people have watched it. So this stat is talking about how disagreements about milestones like marriage or engagement create tension in 68% of young couples. There was a scene in the movie where she's been dating this guy. Now, this is not the first time this happened to her. It's the second guy that she's dated that wasn't interested in anything long term. One was the guy just didn't believe in marriage, but he wanted to have a long-term relationship with her. But it wasn't her definition of a long-term relationship. Her definition of a long-term relationship was one that led to marriage, and marriage was two people living together and being together forever and having children. So then the second guy that she dates is a guy that, okay, he can believe in marriage, but he wanted to have some space between them, and he didn't want children. So that's a disagreement on lifestyle or milestones. I'm gonna stop.
That was I thought we could go a lot of different ways about that. Because.
So what I was gonna say is, after she goes through those two individuals, this is why I believe the statistics are the way that they are. People get damaged though in the game. So now she's gone through this guy that doesn't want traditional marriage. Then the second guy don't want children. She's damaged in the game and she's feeling like I lost a lot of time. That kind of experience makes people change the decisions that they make going forward. So a lot of times they're more, squirmish. A lot of times they might be more prone to want to cheat or think about doing stuff that's coloring outside of the lines. It's because of the pain of their circumstances, the pain of their past. But then she finally meets this guy that when she does her regular thing, which is to pull away and to throw it all to the wind, the guy listens to her, he walks away, but then the next day he comes back like nothing ever happened. And she goes, why are you here? I told you that's it, just leave me alone. And he goes, yeah, I know, but you had a bad day yesterday. But you know I'm not going to go anywhere. And I see you. I know who you are. And I understand you. Come here. And he hugs her and she just melts into his arms. So what I'm saying, I'm going a long way to say this point. I think a lot of what we're seeing in the literature about Gen Z, all of that, even millennials, we're talking about people that have had some experiences. And I think they're being ramped up as you see the younger generations. They don't have as much trust. They don't understand they don't understand the skill sets that are necessary for them to feel confident and that they know and that they can have more control over their future in a productive way. Because like there's things that we do as defense mechanisms to have control or to feel safe. Those are destructive though. So it could be something like sabotaging, where you try to lead the person so that they don't have to leave you. Or it might be that you cheat because you're afraid of, giving all of yourself or creating something that's really what you really want and that's going to be meaningful because you're afraid of failure. So my point is that I think we need to talk about strategies for healing, right? If you can have these kind of conversations with someone where you say to them, hey, this is my Achilles heel. This is my weakness. This is where I've been in relationships. And this is what I'm trying to avoid. I'm saying when you find someone that's really interested in a serious relationship. Now you can have this kind of conversation with somebody that already told you that I don't want anything serious. But to say I meet somebody and they say, yeah, I am really interested in a long-term relationship. I want something serious. I want to, okay. Well, you know what? I'm trying to build something also, but I realize I got to do some work on myself. And here's some of my areas. So it's about being transparent and making yourself a little bit vulnerable. Here's the one thing that I learned about love. Love takes courage. Everybody want to be loved. Everybody wants to love, but it takes courage. Love is not for the faint at heart. Because it means that I got to put myself in a position where you can do something that's going to really harm me. You could break my heart. But I think we forget that we have so much more control than we think. And what is the control? It's not the defense mechanism controls. Like I said before, they're unhealthy. It's the control of preparing myself so that I'm in a position of readiness, where I'm in a position of strength, where I know how to negotiate the relationship. I know myself and I know my pitfalls so that I can make myself accountable to not fall in those pitfalls again.
So what does that look like in today's culture? What do you say that would look like?
It looks like an empowered person.
Okay. So
we have too many victims in relationships.
There it is. Okay.
You hurt me, and it's all about what they did. But what I realize is that nobody hurt you without your consent. I don't care what you say. Nobody hurt you without your consent. What does that look like? I'm in this relationship with Johnny. Johnny done went out on me. But there was writing on the wall before Johnny ever went out on me. There's things that I saw that Johnny did that were suspicious, that should have given you some red flags. But what did you do? You went on into the night, right? So I take responsibility. So I don't believe that anybody did anything to you without my consent, without your consent. So for me, if a friend hurts me, what was my role in the hurt? What did they do? Because people are always who they are. So they've been that person long, long before they harmed you. What did you do? What did you see? What did you do in response to? When they did certain things that were a little sketchy, did you have the conversation? So for those of us that are passive aggressive, that don't like to have confrontational conversations, and confrontational is not the real word, it's conversations that reveal, conversations that alleviate, conversations that clearly discuss honestly what's happening. Did you do that? Usually no. I remember I had one conversation with a friend of mine and she said, I wanted to talk to her about something that she'd done. Because that's my mantra is, I'm going to be clear, I'm going to be open, and I'm going to be transparent. So I'm going to discuss. If it's on my mind, I never let my mind dwell on it. If I have a question about something you did that gives me pause, I'm going to discuss it. Because now you don't want your mind to be writing up no narrative on its own, because it will write a book. It'll have you, well, know what? It'll write a script.
There it
It'll
is.
have you in a movie. It'll be casting the person in the leading role, and it will be a horror flick. So I just don't. I don't let that. So if you did something I don't like, I'll ask you about it. What happened with such and such? I was just talking to Michelle the other day. I said, hey, I noticed you're calling on my friend. You're mentioning her. What's going on there? Because it's something that piqued my interest. It was like a flag, like, what's going on here? Something is, I don't like this trend. What's happening? That's my friend. You know, so what's going on? You gotta discuss. So that at the end of the day, if they do something, they can't ever say they didn't know how you felt about it. Or they can't say that they were unaware that this was going on or whatever. So let's go back to Johnny. So Johnny stepped out on you. What were the signs that Johnny was sketchy? What did you do when you discovered the signs? Did you discuss? Did you pull back? Did you bring out certain conditions or discuss with Johnny what you need to feel safe in the relationship, what your expectations were? Usually the answer to that is no. Or the way that it was communicated was just not in a clear, healthy, palatable way. Because that's not a conversation to be yelling or ending up in a fight. It's just a conversation like, look, what do you think about the relationship that we have now? Are you feeling comfortable in it? Do you feel like this is going anywhere? Yeah, I feel comfortable. I guess it's going, Well, where do you feel like it's going? Or do you feel that you have been in the relationship enough to even think about that? It's not a pressure question, but I would like you to think about it because I'm thinking about it myself. I don't think that there's anything wrong about your dignity to hold certain things back. Like if you see somebody might not be ready and you don't want to say the I love you word, that's a word of pressure. You're putting a lot of pressure on people with a word like that. I'm going to give a word like that when I'm pretty secure that the person is in a place where they can hear it and it's not going to be a roadblock to our relationship, to the future of the relationship.
Do you think people set roadblocks unintentionally?
Again, ignorance, just not knowing that there's a more excellent way, that there's a better way to handle that.
Okay. What do you think is the most reoccurrent roadblock that you've seen people do in relationships? Because I feel like sometimes we don't know that we're putting a roadblock out there or even applying pressure because we're not communicating in a certain way. Like some people will say, oh, I feel this certain way about somebody. And the other person's like, I'm 50-50. So you have one person who's like 90%, someone's 50-50, and you both, like you've always taught me, y'all both have to come in with the same level of commitment. What roadblocks happen? What roadblocks have you seen when those are kind of like unbalanced like that?
First of all, you need to match energy. If somebody's all in and you're not all in, unless it's marriage, you need to match energy. But then I still think that the other part of it is with communication. Everybody says communication is so vital to relationships. Everything's about communication. But we're talking about something that is really specific. We're talking about expectation. We're talking about truth, right? So I think, and we're talking about trust.
Exactly.
Those are things that people talk around, but they don't talk directly to.
How does talking around truth look like?
So it could be
talking
that
to
I'm going to
truth?
accuse you of something, or I'm going to express my concern about something I think that you might have done. So that to me is symptomatic. But really your real issue is I don't trust you. But if I tell somebody I don't trust them, I should be able to lay out why I don't trust them, how that makes me feel, and what I need to feel that I can trust them.
And it's very simple.
It's real simple. What can the person do with that? It's going to bring things to a head. Because a person can now either meet your needs or they can continue to do what they're doing. Either way, you're going to have an answer. Now, you have to have this conversation when you're prepared to do what you need to do based on the outcome. So a lot of times people have conversations, they demand stuff or they want certain things, but they're not ready. Because to me, if you say, if I don't have this, it's a deal breaker, then somebody needs to be leaving. That's an exit sign. But if you're still there after you said that, then you're you're betraying yourself. You got to be ready to take the next step at that point.
So a lot of people are bluffing and they don't know themselves. So then when someone calls them on their bluff, what do you think happens?
It's that, but I think it has to do with you on the inside. you have to know how you're going to communicate. So one of my rules for communicating is don't threaten, don't bluff. Know that if you're saying it's a deal breaker for me to be in a relationship where I have to spend so much energy and I just don't feel safe, I don't trust the person. So if that's the truth, then live your truth. Don't be in a relationship where you don't trust the person and you don't feel safe. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying have the conversation, but be prepared that depending on the outcome, I'm going to be true to myself.
True. How do you tell people who are expressive or emotional to navigate that with grace or navigate that, especially if you're dealing with two emotional people? As you say, we both know, I'm an emotional male. How does one navigate some of these type of conversations with just like, hey, this is not the time to ramp up the volume. This is not the time to put that emotional brain. How do you navigate that?
Well, I'm funny about people that are emotional because, like you said, I'm also emotional. I think be true to yourself. If you're an emotional creature, you're an emotional creature, but don't be ruled by your emotions. And I think that what has helped me the most is my thing on don't watch the movie. So I'm not going to worry about what could happen. I'm not going to be playing out any videos of our talk before we actually have the talk. I'm going to just show up. And then just know that this is the conversation I need to have, that I need to let you know I don't feel safe. I don't feel that I trust you. That's the only line that I'm going to already ruminate on. And I won't let the movie play in my mind any further than that, so that I don't show up with the emotional impact, because I think your emotions kind of brew and build up the more you keep ruminating over it and thinking about it over and over, envisioning it in your mind, this conversation before it happens.
It's crazy that you say that because I think don't watch the movie leads to our third segment. There's a quote that says, miscommunication is one of the most cited reasons for relationship dissatisfaction. As we're talking, I think it starts with I think it gets even before miscommunication. You've already, like you said,
Been in your mind, been in your head about, yeah, communication. I think I really, really stand by my own transformation. Don't watch the movie I came up with several years ago. It has been revolutionary for me because there are conversations that, you're kind of reticent about having. And even if it's a goal for me on my job, I'll start to think about it. How am I going to attack it? Then sometimes I start going too far and start thinking about the what ifs. Or I start imagining beyond the end goal. Don't watch the movie, it's just about the end goal. It's saying, I refuse to watch this script play out to this. I'm just going to say, my end goal is to have this conversation about my expectation.
Great.
And that's it. Amazing. I don't watch how it could happen. I just stay fixed on that.
True. So as we close, one thing that I think a lot of people, like we talking about internally, externally, how do you keep from start putting stuff into your mind? How do you guard your mind so that you can do your own work internally? Because you have external factors and internal factors. How does one guard one's mind in order to do the work?
I'm going to say this. I believe what's most important is what's on the inside of you, not what's on the outside. So you're talking about how do I make sure that... No, it starts with just being very aware of what's happening on the inside of you. Because I believe that what's happening out here is just a reflection of what's going on in here. So once you get this in check, that's by being aware of what is your internal narrative. What am I really thinking about certain things? Like I even talk to people that are prayer warriors. Oh yeah, I prayed this, I prayed that. It's like, but what are you really thinking about that scenario before you say the prayer? The prayer sounds beautiful, sounds full of faith, but what is really going on in here while you're saying that prayer? So let's shift that now to talk about how I live out this life. If I'm careful to know what I really think and feel about anything. So when I sense that there's anxiety, I'm taking you through my role, right? My process. If I feel a little anxiousness about something when I think about it, then I have to start to figure out, okay, I got to dig there because there's something there that's unsettling. So then I start to think about, what do I feel about this? So I go through this process. Okay, so I'm a little concerned about this new building that we're trying to build. What is my concern about the building? Is it that it's not going to happen? I'll go through those things until I hit on what it is. Usually it only takes you a few minutes to think about it, and then you figure out what it is. It might be you're concerned that it won't work out. You might be concerned that other people are relying on you, and how long is it going to take? So once I find out what that concern is, then I take it and I look at it like this. And I say, what's the worst case scenario? So say that it's that people are going to be disappointed. I have people relying on me to get this thing going, and I'm going to disappoint them. Okay, so I look at that and I go to the worst case scenario about it. So if they are upset and I'm not able to get this done in, say, like this 2-year period, then what? Once you start to write down or list in your mind what are the worst case, what could happen given the worst case scenario? It's like taking the fangs out of a poisonous snake. It loses its bite. And then in the process, I come up with strategies given whatever the scenario is going to be. Moreover, it usually readjusts my posture in the situation and my thought process about it. That's really important.
When you say
it
posture,
readjusts how I'm going to stand in this particular endeavor. So maybe before I was, now I'm going to be more agile. I'm willing to be a little bit more flexible. It might make me more reserved. I don't know, but it usually changes the way that, because perspective, it has to change. If my perspective changes, everything about me has to change regarding this particular matter. Because now my mind has changed about the matter. And I feel that whenever you're able to do that, you're getting rid of the worry, the anxiousness. You put yourself in a position to now flow with the natural occurrence of what's going to unfold for you. It's really big. Think about yourself in a river of water, and the currents are taking you along. If I make myself rigid or I change my position, I'm creating resistance in the water, in the stream, or in the flow of that water. That's kind of like what anxiety does or worrying does. It kind of just tenses up and it creates resistance in the flow. So you get in your own way. And it's always because of your perspective, your paradigm, your mental model, your perspective about it. So then I find that once I'm able to stop that resistance, what is going to occur, that I flow better because it's already underway.
Perfect. What do you have to say to people who are currently navigating on their own river of healing or navigating their own river of communicating better? What are some closing words or some closing advice you would give to those people?
That are navigating their own...
They're navigating their own river towards healing or river towards a better communication style or a better mind. What would you say to those people?
The first thing is knowing yourself. Self-awareness is everything. You can't change anything about yourself if you don't know that it exists. So self-awareness. To me, self-awareness is one of the genes that we all have the ability to cultivate, but we don't do the work. Self-awareness is everything. And I think it keeps us from being delusional. It keeps us from that river called denial. It keeps us moving forward at a rapid pace when we're aware. To know what your great strengths are, to know what your weaknesses are. You need to know your superpower as well as your kryptonite, because it makes you more able to adjust to the real facts and to adjust in given situations, quickly. Self-awareness is going to help you when you're looking at healing. If it's healing a relationship or just healing yourself inwardly, you got to be aware. You got to be aware of what's on your mind. What are you really holding in your heart? What are you really afraid of? What are your real touch points, your pain points? If you don't know that, but you expect everybody else to know it, you don't know. Most of what we're supposed to be telling people in a relationship are the things that are important for us. We're not supposed to leave it to them to try to figure it out. I'm so busy trying to live my own life, trying to figure out how to do life for me. How do I have the bandwidth to also figure out everything about you? It's my responsibility to tell you what you need to know about me. and not to tell you the things from a victim's voice. I got hurt so bad because, from so-and-so, and I just don't want nobody to disappoint me again. Not like that, but just to tell you, say, hey, one of my weaknesses is that it's hard for me to follow somebody that doesn't have a track record. So sometimes I might not be the best to, when you're saying, let's go this way, I might pull a little to the left because it's going to take me time to get settled into that. Now that's powerful to me. That's a conversation. I have to tell you though, or I've been abused. So when you raise your voice, if you talk loud, if you make too many movements, it scares me. I shouldn't leave that to you to figure out or make you responsible if you do that. And that's just because you're an animated communicator. But now I got a problem with you because you make me feel threatened. No, it's my responsibility to inform you. How to, lady, how to do life, how to do love, and how to do you, boo. So click, like, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more to come.